Hello everyone and welcome. I really hope we're live. If we're having some technical difficulties, I apologize, but I think we're live. I hope everyone can hear me. Welcome again. It is a really lovely morning here in Kent, Washington. It's a little foggy, it's a little chilly, but we've got some beautiful birds flying around outside our window, and I think the sun is breaking through. So I hope it's a nice morning where you are as well. And we're basically just going to open up our live IBS Q&A event to whatever questions you have, and I'll just take them in turn. So send me what questions you've got and we'll try to get you as much help as we can. The first question that we have that's come in, this is one that comes up all the time about tummy fiber. People are asking, does the water need to be at just room temperature when mixing your tummy fiber into liquids? I guess water or other liquids. It sometimes lumps up. Yes, it sometimes does. That's because it's a minimally processed fiber. It's granulated to dissolve best in room temperature. Basically, that means it will dissolve fastest in room temperature. It doesn't mean that it won't ever dissolve in other temperatures. It will. You could add boiling hot liquids to it. You could add ice cold liquids to it. It'll clump up and it'll take longer to dissolve, but it's a matter of time. It will eventually, just all the lumps will disappear and it will dissolve out. So if you have to add it to something icy cold, boiling hot, you can. Just give it a few extra minutes, stir it in. I add it to my hot tea in the morning and then I walk away and I feed the dog. By the time I come back and give a few more stirs, all the lumps are gone. You can also circumvent that whole process of adding it to liquids and having to even care about what temperature it is if you just want to add the dry tummy fiber powder right to any kind of moist foods that you're having with breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. Any kind of food that's got moisture in it, it's going to melt right in. So that's a super easy way to do it. I also like to cook with it. Once you have it dissolved, it's never going to come back out, so you can add it in advance if you wish to foods or drinks. Once it's in there, can't damage it, it's not going to go bad. Mix it in as far in advance as you want. There's really no restrictions about that. Again, if you are joining us late, we just started our live IBS Q&A event. If you're participating, say hi. Let us know where you're watching from. Love to see where people are checking in from. I think we actually have viewers from all over the world. And let's see, it looks like we have a second question coming in. People are asking about eating away from home if they have to eat out at restaurants. That's a tough one. Can certainly be done. A little advanced planning goes a long way here. If you can find out in advance what restaurant you're going to, if you have any power over choosing the restaurant, that helps a lot. If you can choose a safe restaurant in the first place. Asian restaurants tend to be a little bit safer. They don't have a lot of red meat and dairy in the first place, some big triggers. They always have white rice and noodles, your good, safe, soluble fiber foundations. Find out what's on the menu in advance. Give the restaurant a call in advance. Ask about ingredients, ask about preparations, about special requests. Basically, the most control and the most power that you can take in the first place, the more control you have over the situation, the better the odds that you're going to make it through just fine. I'd also try to prep yourself before you even leave for the restaurant or as soon as you get there. Have a dose of your tummy fiber right at the beginning of that meal, or if you use the Tummy Tamers peppermint oil capsules, take one on an empty stomach before you even leave for the restaurant. If you have to, as soon as you get to the restaurant, if that gives you enough time. Try to get some kind of plain soluble fiber food in your gut the moment that you get there. Order a little side of white rice, some plain white bread, something that's going to get you stable before you start eating the other foods. And maybe just, go a little shy on your portions. Eat slowly, eat leisurely. Think of it as something that's as much about the social aspect and the people you're eating with and less about the food, so that you can just be a little more careful and you don't have to worry so much. Sometimes just the worry about what you're eating and eating out can trigger problems, in and of itself. But eating away from home, other people's houses at restaurants, that's a really involved topic. I actually wrote an entire chapter about that for the first year IBS because it comes up a lot and there's a lot of information that can really help you. So don't give up on restaurants. Don't think that you can't ever eat out or ever have good food away from home. You can. Just the more information, the more power you have, the better you can manage it. Ooh, we have a new question. This one is coming in. Okay, now let's see. We have soy milk. Let's see. Somebody's asking, soy milk usually gives the same results in a recipe that dairy milk does in terms of its creaminess. Which non-dairy milk is a good substitute for soy to get dairy milk results? Ooh, interesting. I personally do like the unsweetened soy milk for cooking because it does give really good creamy results, and it is very comparable to dairy in terms of the body weight and the neutrality of the taste. If you can't do soy milk at all, I think oat milk is probably the best substitute in terms of the body and the creaminess. Oat milk, I think, is a little naturally sweet. I'm not sure how well that would work in something like a clam chowder or a savory dish. You might have to compensate for that a little bit. If you can't use either one of those, you might try something like a plain rice milk, but you might have to thicken it with something so that it has a little bit more body. That's actually something, it's going to sound funny, but you can use your tummy fiber for that. They actually use soluble fiber in commercial cooking and baking because it adds a sort of creaminess to the mouthfeel, and it makes things taste richer, a little denser, heavier. It fools your mouth into thinking there's fat in there when there really isn't. So I would say either for cooking, use your unsweetened soy milk, use your unsweetened oat milk, or if those don't work, use an unsweetened rice milk and maybe add a little tummy fiber to give it an extra body weight and creaminess. But in general, for drinking and cooking, play around with all of your non-dairy milks. The only one that's really unsuitable for IBS is coconut milk because it tends to be very high fat. And again, I'm going to welcome, we got some newcomers coming in, so hello, thank you very much and welcome. Questions, we're going to try to get to everybody, so send them on in. Let's see. What do I got next? Hold on, I'm trying to pick my questions here. We got a lot of people coming in. Oh, somebody has asked a question that we actually did in an FAQ recently. This is a good one. I'll go over it. How far in advance can you add your tummy fiber to foods or drinks? There's no restrictions on that at all. Add them as far in advance as you want. The fiber's never going to go bad. Add it to any kind of liquid or moist food. Add it to anything that you are cooking. Fiber is impervious, so it's basically inert. It's never going to, mold or mildew or make something spoil on you. In fact, it can actually extend the life of some kinds of foods, which is also why they use it in commercial baking and cooking. So as long as your food or your drink stay fresh, the tummy fiber is going to be just fine in there and you have nothing to worry about it. So add it as far in advance as you want to anything you are going to eat or drink. After you've added it, if you've cooked with it, you can then freeze that food or pot of soup, whatever you want. Can't damage it. You can reheat something, you could refreeze it, temperature impervious, everything impervious, so there's no restrictions on how or when you use the fiber in advance at all. And that question comes up all the time. And I like it because it's a good idea to add things in advance so the fiber is already there. So mix up your bottle of water for the day and have it to just drink throughout the day. Add it to what you're cooking, add it to meals in advance, so it's just there. That can be a really easy step for people. And make it a lot simpler to kind of keep it in your gut 24/7. Since really soluble fiber only works when it's physically in your gut, you do want to try to keep it there 24/7. Ooh, all right. Got more IBS triggers, and if anyone can't hear me, let us know. I think everybody can hear me and it's going fine, but again, it's our first time doing the live event, so if there's technical difficulties, let us know so we can fix them. If anybody can't hear me, speak up. Let's see, another question. What are the main IBS triggers, food and otherwise? Yeah, food is a big one, big one. I would say stress is the other big trigger. Stress really upsets the gut function. Even if you don't have IBS, stress can certainly do that. There's some other kind of oddball triggers that people don't necessarily suspect that can really affect your gut. Weather is one of them. Hot, humid weather in particular affects serotonin in your body, and serotonin is mostly in your gut and it's implicated in IBS. So watch out for hot, humid weather. Watch out for sudden drastic weather changes, severe harsh cold weather, anything that physically stresses your body, even if you don't feel it as I'm stressed out, it's still going to stress your gut. Even happy stress, like excitement stress, a big event coming up, a wedding, a big party, that can be stressful on your gut and send IBS flaring. Any changes to your sleep schedule, sleep deprivation, jet lag, anything that takes you out of your normal rhythmic schedule of the day, like travel, all those things can upset your gut and set off IBS. And then in terms of foods, some big triggers are typically fats. Fat's a huge GI stimulant, sets off your gastrocolic reflex. That makes your lower colon start contracting, and in IBS that can mean painful spasms. So watch out for too much fat. of any kind, even your heart healthy fats, good for your heart, your gut's still going to overreact to them. So with fats, it's quantity. You want to go low fat, not fat free. There's a lot of outright GI irritants, things like alcohol, cigarettes, artificial sweeteners across the board tend to be really hard on your gut. And then the other kind of main category would be your insoluble fiber foods. That's your roughage kind of fiber, your bran, your raw leafy greens, your popcorn. Most people have had some bad experiences with popcorn. It's the kernels, it's that insoluble fiber. Huge GI stimulant. Can't just eliminate it, can't avoid your insoluble fiber foods, but you have to be careful with them. So you want to do things like chop, cook, blend, puree, peel skins off of those fruits and veggies, take seeds out, anything that you can do to mechanically break down insoluble fiber before you even eat it. It's going to make it a lot easier on your gut. So instead of having a big raw green salad, cook some greens till they're really super nice and tender. Serve them with your soluble fiber staples, your rice, potatoes, your oatmeal, your noodles, your polenta. Always get your soluble fiber foundation in first. Use that to add your insoluble fiber and small amounts of your heart healthy fats. So lots of triggers for IBS, but also lots of different ways to manage them. And we had Jerry say hi. Hi, Jerry. Good to have you here. And I'm not sure if this is your question or somebody else. Oh, Jerry from Arlington. There you go. Asking how the weather affects IBS. Well, physically, it's because it can stress your body from the temperature extremes, or because literally humidity affects the serotonin in your gut. That's how it physically causes changes in your gut that can then set off IBS. And you know, it can be really extreme for some people. Some people can't tolerate some climates, and they might well be struggling with their IBS day in, day out if they're living in a climate that's not suitable for them. I had a lot of problems with that myself personally when I lived in New England for a little while, and the summers were extremely hot and humid. And it was really hard on me. I had a very hard time staying stable. I had to make a lot more effort day in, day out just to keep my gut calm, compared to being in my sort of homeland of the Pacific Northwest, where it's very temperate year-round and there's really no extreme fluctuations or hot, humid summers. I stay much more stable in a climate that's suitable for me, to such a degree that it's a factor in where I live. I think I would be sick every single day of my life if I had to live, you know, in the tropics or someplace at the equator. I think it would kill me. So that can be an important factor for people. So be aware of that. Weather can absolutely affect your gut for the better or the worse. Oh, we have more people joining us. Good to see. And then let's see, what are the best supplements for IBS? Well, there's a great big long laundry list of those. I would say you always want to key your supplements to your symptoms. I don't know of any supplement that's going to physically affect the underlying brain-gut disorder that is the pathology of IBS. So what you're trying to do with your supplements is manage symptoms. You're trying to keep your gut motility calm, stable, rhythmic, so that it prevents the symptoms from flaring in the first place. So if it's diarrhea or constipation or alternating, the only supplement I know that's really going to regulate that would be a pure soluble fiber, something like the tummy fiber, and that's a process. That's twice a day, every day, day in, day out. Keep it in your gut. You have to start at a low dose. You have to work up gradually. You have to keep working your dose gradually up, up, up until you hit the point where you have enough in your gut 24/7 to keep motility stable. That would be my top supplement for diarrhea, constipation, or alternating. If pain, spasms, cramps, that's the main symptom you're trying to address, I think peppermint is the direct hit for pain. I always think P for peppermint, P for pain. Peppermint's a really powerful antispasmodic, smooth muscle relaxant, painkiller. You can use it as enteric-coated peppermint oil capsules on an empty stomach as a preventative to head off the pain. You can go to super strong, brew it black, peppermint tea when you need immediate help for pain and spasms. If you need something to stop that pain now, like you can't wait, you can't breathe, go to your brewed black peppermint tea. Flexible, doesn't matter how or when, how much, full stomach, empty stomach, makes no difference. So go right to your peppermint tea for any kind of pain. Bloating and gas, the other main IBS symptoms, bloating in particular, hugely frustrating symptom. Best bet for that's probably fennel tea. Again, brew it as strong as you possibly can. Drink it however, whenever, doesn't matter. You can kind of overwhelm your gut with fennel tea for a couple of days to get on top of bloating and gas. That can be really helpful. You can mix and match your peppermint and fennel teas in the same cup, same day. Can't go wrong with anything with the herbal teas. Probiotics, have some good research on them for IBS. Not so much with specific strains across the board. There's some varieties there, but probiotics can really only help you. They can't hurt anything. I would just make sure that you are reading your ingredients for probiotics and make sure they're not adding anything that could set you off, like the rapidly fermenting prebiotics, inulin, FOS, GOS, MOS, oligosaccharides. You really want to try to avoid those completely. Some folks find digestive enzymes to be really helpful. They also can't hurt. You normally take those right before a meal. Also read the ingredients in those. They can add some, some triggers into digestive enzymes that don't need to be there. You can get into some wild cards like calcium and magnesium for vitamins. Calcium is constipating, magnesium is a laxative. Sometimes people use those judiciously and they can help some symptoms. That's probably the best summation of the most common and I think most effective supplements that would help IBS. And again, remember to key that to your symptoms. And I'm going to have a sip of my own peppermint tea while I wait for some questions to come in. Okay. George is asking a question. Hello, George. Any advice for stomach pain after every meal? Well, is that literally every meal? Like every single time you eat, you have pain? And is it chronic pain or is this just intermittent? Because with IBS, by definition, it's lower abdominal pain, which is below the belly button, and it's chronic but intermittent. So non-stop 24/7 pain doesn't fit the definition of IBS. It's defined by what's called the Rome criteria. Also, pain above the belly button, like literally stomach pain, wouldn't really fit the bill for IBS as well. You can have upper GI issues on top of IBS. That's not uncommon. But if you literally have upper GI stomach pain after every meal, that isn't really fitting the Rome criteria for IBS, and I would check in with your GI doc. If this is more lower pain, sometimes people say a stomach ache, but it's really lower down, like below the belly button, and it's your colon that's causing the pain, which it would be with IBS. I would try to head that off with a peppermint oil capsule. I would add that in. You'd want to take a tummy tamer, try it 60 minutes before you eat, totally empty stomach. Wait before you eat as well, so there's a chance for that capsule to pass out of your stomach intact and reach your intestines before it dissolves. I'd also look at what you're eating with every meal. Do you have triggers in there? Red meat, dairy, deep fried foods, soda pop, coffee, even decaf. Those are going to be your main triggers, or too much insoluble fiber, great big raw green salads, a lot of whole wheat and bran. Those could definitely set you off. So if you're trying to figure this out and you're not sure, there's a trick where you could just drop down to nothing but plain white rice and some super strong peppermint or fennel tea for a couple days. It's boring, it's limited, but you're not going to die of malnutrition in 2 days. And if it is IBS, what this is going to do is fill your gut with nothing but plain soluble fiber from the rice, which is the gut motility regulator, and then an antispasmodic tea from the peppermint or fennel. It's going to force your motility to calm down, to get back in a normal rhythmic cycle. Get back into the normal cycle. With IBS, when you get your peristalsis in a normal rhythmic cycle, it tends to want to stay there. So that can be a really good trick to maybe see what's going on. I would try that for a couple days, see if that makes a difference. Particularly the fennel tea for you, if it's really more upper GI and stomach, try fennel instead of peppermint. If you do nothing but plain white rice and fennel tea for 2 or even 3 days, and there's no change and you just have this unrelenting stomach pain, that is not going to fit the definition of IBS, and you definitely want to check in with your GI doc and find out what's going on. Let's see. I have somebody breaking in here and asking, apparently our tech folks want to make sure I tell you that we are new to this kind of broadcast. We want to make sure everybody can hear me. We want to know if anybody is having any problems or is wondering how to ask questions. So let us know if there's anything going on, and I'll have our tech people all in the background work that out for you. And oh, a new question. How to choose safe meals at restaurants? Ooh. That can be trickier than it seems, mostly because they don't always tell you everything on the menu that's in a dish. So it might sound all nice and happy and IBS safe, and then they deliver it to your table and it's got melted cheese all over it. Or it was deep fried and they didn't say that. So you got to kind of be nosy, you got to be a detective, you got to ask a lot of questions. Again, if you can do this in advance before you even get to the restaurant, that can help. Look up their menu online, see what they've got, give them a call, ask them questions. But the biggest rule here is you're really looking for your safe, soluble fiber foundation to the meal. That's going to be your rice, your noodles, your pasta, your potatoes, your polenta. For breakfast, it would be oatmeal, cream of rice cereal, bananas are good, safe, soluble fiber fruit. Any of your cooked, roasted root veggies can be safe. So you got to make sure that your safe, soluble fiber food is in there as the foundation. And then you have to make sure that the triggers aren't in there. So ask, make sure there's no red meat in this, there's no dairy in this, right? There's no cheese in this, you're not cooking this in butter. You have to really be explicit. Sometimes people don't understand that butter, yes, it's dairy, and so is cheese. And if you can't have cheese or butter, you probably can't have cream either. So, did they tell you about that cream sauce in advance? You really got to kind of grill the servers, maybe even get to know some of your favorite restaurants so you get familiar with them and they know your special requests. But I would look for something based on rice, based on noodles, based on potatoes, and then make sure they're not adding too much fat. Restaurants tend to add way too much fat. That's probably the biggest trigger at restaurants. And then also don't have a big raw green salad when they deliver that to you as your appetizer. You don't want that on an empty stomach. I would save your salad for the end of the meal, have some of it after you get your safe, soluble fiber foods instead. And let's see, I'm being asked if everybody can take a minute to post where they're listening from and their name. That'd be helpful. And then we have John Crow from Brooklyn who says, so appreciate your doing this. Thanks, John. That makes my day. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to answer them. I'm going to have some more of my peppermint tea. Let's see, George is asking, would brown rice work? Depends. If you're stable, brown rice tends to be one of the safest whole grains for IBS. That brown part is the bran, and that is insoluble fiber. So if you take brown rice and you polish off the brown part, the bran, you're left with white rice. That's all white rice is. It's just brown rice that's had the bran polished off. So it still has all the soluble fiber, but the insoluble fiber from the bran has been removed. A lot of people with IBS do just fine with brown rice, particularly if you're stable, if you're used to it. I would say if you're really feeling touchy, you're in a situation where you're not sure, like a restaurant, or you have not been stable lately, I would stick to white rice until you are feeling more stable. And then maybe do a partial. Make some white and brown rice together so you get a little bit of each, and then see if you can migrate more towards the wholly brown rice. But key it to how you're doing. If you're stable, brown rice is fine. If you're really touchy, you're not sure what else is going to be going on in this meal, I would avoid the brown rice. The white's going to be safer. Let's see, got lots of questions coming in now. Dixie Holloman, hello Dixie. She's saying gas and bloating gets worse during the day. That helps so a lot of people. They wake up and they're fine, nice flat stomach, and then as the day goes on, they get more and more bloated because your gut tends to get more and more active. When you're asleep, your gut calms down. When you wake up, your gut wakes up. So that's pretty common. Let's see, you're asking, do you drink the fennel tea before meals? The lovely thing about the teas is they're so flexible. There's just no restrictions on them at all, like there are with the peppermint capsules or the tummy fiber. All of your herbal teas you can have however, whenever, how often, before meals, with meals, after meals. If bloating and gas is a big problem day in, day out for you, I would probably add in fennel tea and just try drinking that all day long and see how you do. You can really overwhelm your gut with that. You can brew it as strong as you want. You might want to make a big pot of it in advance because it doesn't matter if you drink it later in the day after it's brewed. You don't have to drink it hot. You just have to brew it hot. Let it brew dark brown. Let it brew super, super strong. And try just drinking that throughout the day. See if that helps. The other thing with gas and bloating, you really want to read ingredients on everything that you're eating, drinking, all supplements, even things you've been using for years. because ingredients are changing in a lot of products and people are starting to add the prebiotic FODMAPs. So if you see something that says prebiotic, take that as a warning sign. Prebiotics can be great if they're slowly fermenting, like the tummy fiber. What you don't want is a rapidly fermenting prebiotic. Those are your FODMAPs. That's your inulin, your FOS, your GOS, your MOS, oligosaccharides, chicory extract, artichoke extract. Anytime you see any of those ingredients, you want to avoid them like the plague. So if you're having gas and bloating, all day, every day, scrupulously read the ingredients on everything you're eating and drinking. Yogurt is a big culprit there. Probiotics are a big culprit. Make sure they don't have any of those awful, rapidly fermenting FODMAPs in them. And those ingredients are literally straight FODMAPs. They're not something that has FODMAPs. They are FODMAPs. So they will set off people who don't even have IBS with gas and bloating. Let's see. We have George. Hi, George. I think it's different George. So, would brown rice work for the 3-day fennel tea test? If this is like the trick of dropping down to the rice and strong peppermint fennel tea, no, it would not. Because the whole point of that trick is to give your gut nothing but soluble fiber. You're taking everything out of your gut that could be a stimulant or a trigger. You're taking out all fats. You're taking out all insoluble fiber. You are taking out literally everything but plain white rice, which is basically nothing but soluble fiber, and your helpful herbal tea, your fennel tea, the antispasmodic and the pain relieving. So you don't want to give your gut anything but that. And it is boring. But it's also going to give you some information, because if it's a motility disorder that is causing your symptoms, you're forcing your gut into normal motility by putting nothing in it but soluble fiber and an antispasmodic tea. You're giving your gut no choice but to calm down and to start getting back into normal rhythmic function, which will prevent the painful spasms. It should also help stop urgency diarrhea. It should help constipation as well. It'll take longer for that, but soluble fiber is going to help constipation as much as diarrhea. So if you're trying to break a cycle, if you're trying to figure out, is this really a motility disorder or something else going on, you really only can use plain white rice and the herbal tea for that trick, or it's probably not going to work. I would not go to brown rice when you're struggling at all. You're just putting insoluble fiber in your gut in a situation where it really doesn't want it. And it's just a couple days. Okay, we have another question. Ooh, good one. Are artificial sweeteners safe for IBS? No, they're not. They're not safe for your gut, even if you don't have IBS. I don't really know of any artificial sweeteners that don't have gut upset as a common side effect. Probably the worst among those are the sugar alcohols, things like sorbitol. You see them in the diabetic candies and cookies, and they will actually have a warning label on the package that these cookies will cause diarrhea and urgency if you eat too many of them. And that's for people who don't even have IBS. So just imagine what it's going to do to your poor gut. So you don't want any of the erythritols, the sorbitols, the xylitols. Those are horrible for IBS. Really the things like the NutraSweet and the saccharin and the aspartame and whatever all the other ones are that are out there, none of them are going to be good for your gut. They're all going to be a possible big trigger. Stevia, if it's 100% pure stevia, is safe for IBS. Not everybody likes that as an artificial sweetener. A lot of people can taste it. But in terms of something that shouldn't affect your gut negatively, you can certainly use 100% stevia. Read the ingredients to make sure that it's 100% stevia, because there are brands out there that add other artificial sweeteners to the stevia, or even the FODMAPs, the stevia. You never know what you're going to get. So I would say either stevia, or use plain old regular sugar, sucrose, which is table sugar, brown sugar, white sugar, maple syrup, a little honey. Sucrose is not a GI trigger. It's not a health food. You certainly don't have to eat sugar for IBS. But if you want a sweet treat, you're going to be safer off with real sugar than any kind of artificial sweetener. Otherwise, just leave things completely unsweetened. And if you're buying something and you're worried about this, what you don't want on the label is sugar-free. Sugar-free means we're adding artificial sweeteners. Don't buy anything that says it's sugar-free. What you're looking for is something that says unsweetened. That means they're not adding sugar. They're not adding other sweeteners. So sugar-free and unsweetened are two totally different things. You do not want sugar-free. You want unsweetened. Makes a big difference. Artificial sweeteners are a huge trigger for a lot of people, so watch out for them. They sneak into a lot of things, and a really small quantity can set you off. That is not uncommon. Let's see, another question. How does the IBS diet work, and how can the same diet work for both diarrhea and constipation? That comes up a lot, and it's a logical question because how could the same diet work for both diarrhea and constipation? Well, the core factor for this is that it's the same diet because you're dealing with people who have the same underlying gut dysfunction. If you have IBS, you have a dysfunction of the enteric nervous system of the gut, and it's not functioning right. It's not a disease. There's no inflammation, infection. There's nothing structurally wrong, but your gut motility doesn't function right, and it's that dysfunction in the peristalsis of your gut that causes the urgency in the diarrhea. Things are too fast and hard, that causes the constipation if the contractions are too slow, too sluggish. If you have irregularly timed contractions, that can cause trapped gas, that can cause a lot of bloating. Obviously, all of this can cause a lot of pain. So the underlying pathology is the same. So the same diet can help underlying pathology in terms of resolving the symptoms. So your whole goal with the IBS diet is to give your gut soluble fiber, which is the gut motility regulator. That's the only food that's going to literally regulate the contractions of your bowel. That's what soluble fiber does in your gut, whether you have IBS or not. So it only works when it's in your gut. You want to keep your soluble fiber foods in your gut 24/7. That's your rice, your pasta, potatoes, oatmeal, root veggies, mangoes. Soluble fiber is going to keep those contractions stable, rhythmic. It's also going to regulate water content in your bowel. That means it's going to resolve from either extreme. So soluble fiber will stop diarrhea as well as stop constipation. This is true for soluble fiber supplements as well as the foods. They're all going to have that same action in your gut of regulating motility, regulating water content. The difference here is that people with constipation often end up needing a lot more soluble fiber in their gut. They may need to add on a soluble fiber supplement more than the diarrhea folks, and they almost certainly will need to gradually work up to a higher dose of soluble fiber than someone on the diarrhea end. But the goal here, no matter what, if you have IBS, is to keep your gut filled with soluble fiber 24/7 so that you are forcing normal motility and heading off the symptoms 24/7. And by the same token, the same foods tend to be triggers for diarrhea, constipation, pain, spasms, bloating, gas, and those are the stimulants. Because by definition, IBS, you have a hyperreactive gut. Your gut overreacts to normal stimuli like foods or stress or weather. So the foods that are naturally going to be the strongest stimulants are your fats and your insoluble fibers, and then your irritants like coffee, even decaf. You're going to overreact to all of those. The way that your specific IBS displays that overreaction as diarrhea, constipation, pain, bloating, that's going to vary from person to person, and even within the same person you might flip back and forth. But the logic behind it is the same for everyone across the board. Calm it down, force normal motility with soluble fiber, keep your gut from spasming from insoluble fiber, fats, irritants, stimulants. So you're basically using the same mechanisms across the board to keep your gut forced into normal, gentle, rhythmic function, and that should then help prevent and relieve all of the symptoms. Details and everything might, vary a bit from person to person, but the macro view of it's going to be the same for everybody if you have that underlying pathology of IBS. Oh, let's see. Heather's favorite holiday drink and food that's IBS safe. Ooh. Well, to buy, Silknog used to be one of my favorite non-dairy eggnogs. You could sprinkle on a little freshly grated eggnog or nutmeg on top of the eggnog and then drink it hot or cold. That's something that I get every season. That's a treat for me. So if you're used to drinking soy milk, that can be a fun splurge. I really like to make homemade gingerbread, and I have a recipe for that in Eating for IBS I'd be happy to share with people. That's actually something that's not just a treat that's safe for IBS, but because of all the ginger and the other spices in there, it's actively a digestive aid. So it's not just a good snack or a dessert, but it can help you. Let's see, I have a kind of funny sounding traditional holiday dish that I grew up with in my family. My grandmother would always make a form of Chex Party Mix. And that was something that we had in little bowls around the house whenever it was the holidays. So to this day, I make a safe version of Chex Party Mix for the holidays every year, because to me that just reminds me of my grandmother and old-fashioned holidays. And that's a good safe snack as well. I like having that out there because whenever my stomach starts to get empty, I know I can have a little handful of my safe Chex Party Mix, and it's low fat and it's high soluble fiber, and it'll keep me stable. If you want those recipes, let me know. I'll be happy to get them out there to people. Okay, we've got people asking about stress. Yeah, the holidays can be stressful. That's a hard one. You know, you can't necessarily prevent all the stress that's coming your way. Some of the best tricks for dealing with that are just the most common sense, boring ones that you probably already know, like get extra sleep. Try to keep your exercise schedule going. Exercise is one of the best things you can do to relieve stress. Find some quiet time for yourself every day where you do something that you find relaxing, whatever that is. If you like to read, if you want to play with a dog, if you have a hobby, just find your own time where you know this is your little chunk of the day where you don't have to do anything but something that you find enjoyable and relaxing. I go straight to a cup of peppermint tea when I'm under stress. I can literally feel that calm things down. It just sort of affects my whole body, not just my gut. I let people know if you're under a lot of stress. Let your family and friends know. Let people at work know. Ask for a little help. Don't feel like you have to keep this all to yourself. Sometimes people with IBS are afraid to talk about it. They're embarrassed to talk about it. That can make things a lot harder on you, and sometimes maybe unnecessarily harder. So you might give the people around you a chance to support you more. Let them know you need help. You know, you're struggling, you're under stress, you need somebody to help you with this or with that, or to take this off of you, or to maybe cater to you in this regard, or to change their schedule a little bit so that you can change yours. That can make a big deal. Heat therapy is also some fast and easy trick for if you're feeling really stressed out. Take a hot shower. If you have a hot tub, if you have access to that, a sauna, heat can be really relaxing. Just sort of relaxes all of your muscles. And remember, your entire gut is actually smooth muscle tissue. Your gut is muscle. So anything that's going to make your muscles tighten up and contract is going to do that to your gut. Anything that's going to make your muscles relax and feel smooth and happy and comfy is going to do that to your gut too. So take advantage of that. Okay, we have another question from George. Oh gosh. The doctor says I need to take an oral antibiotic for an infection. How can I protect my gut? Also, then another tough one. Antibiotics are usually indiscriminate. They just wipe out all of your bacteria, all your good gut bacteria as well as your bad gut bacteria. So yeah, they can wreak havoc on your gut. George, I would ask your doctor, first of all, if they can get you an antibiotic that's going to be the easiest on your gut. They might have some choices there. Let them know up front that you're worried about this, that you have IBS, maybe you have a history of antibiotics setting off your gut. See if they can cater to you before they even fill the prescription. I'd also ask your pharmacist about this, not just the doctor, because pharmacists oftentimes have better drug information. They get good feedback from patients on side effects and how effective things are. So grill your doctor, grill your pharmacist. And then normally antibiotics, they want you to take them with food. So if that is an option, take advantage of that. Really any medication you can ever take with food, you want to. That's going to really, really help keep it from upsetting your gut. Take it right in the middle of a meal or right after a meal. Don't take it before. Get food in your gut first. You might want to increase your soluble fiber while you're on that antibiotic. Make your meals extra safe. Decrease your triggers. Cut down on the fat and the insoluble fiber. You know, you're putting something in your gut now that's likely to upset it, so compensate by giving your gut things that are likely to calm it down. And, you know, don't be too super worried about this. Get more information before you worry about it, because there are some antibiotics that can be pretty tolerable on your gut, and don't be so afraid that you take it and the stress of taking it then upsets your gut. Get information first so you are not worried about something unnecessarily. And then George has added he's using golden seal to try to avoid the antibiotic. As far as I know, that would be safe for IBS. I don't know about it's replacing an antibiotic, but I haven't ever heard of that causing issues for IBS. I would, talk to your doctor about it, talk to the pharmacist. The more information you have about whether or not you need this drug, how much you need of it, how long you need of it, get information first so you know what you're going into. Ooh, this is a good one. This comes up all the time. Can I eat or drink dairy that is lactose free? No, please don't. Because it's not just the lactose that's a problem in dairy. Lactose is a problem for a lot of people, and people can be lactose intolerant and have IBS or one or the other. But there's a lot of people who are not lactose intolerant who still can't tolerate dairy at all, and I'm one of them. They gave me the lactose tolerance test when I was a kid. It was worthless. I have no intolerance. I still can't drink milk or eat cheese or eat butter or ice cream. It's not just the lactose in dairy. It's the fat. Dairy tends to be really high fat. Fat across the board is a GI stimulant. Butter is pure fat. Cheese is super high fat. Whipping cream, obviously really high fat. But even if it's non-fat dairy and it's lactose-free dairy, now you've taken out the fat and you've taken out the carbohydrate, which is the lactose, that's a milk sugar. You're left with the proteins. That's casein and whey. Those are also GI triggers. A lot of people get gut upsets from casein and whey. You just can't take it out of milk. You can't take out the fat and the protein and the lactose. There's nothing left. So really, everything in dairy can be a potential IBS trigger. So I would avoid it across the board. Don't go to the lactate versions of things. Try to find the non-dairy sub that you like. Soy milk, rice milk, oat milk, almond milk, hemp milk, flax milk. I feel like there's more of these non-dairy milks coming out every day. All different flavors. Read the ingredients just to make sure you're not finding one where they're adding something weird. Watch out for high-fat coconut milk. But other than that, you're going to have much better luck with non-dairy milks, non-dairy cheeses, non-dairy ice creams than trying to use a lactose-free dairy one. And I actually find a lot of the non-dairy ice creams to be delicious and even better than regular ice cream. So play around with those, read the ingredients, watch the fat content. But in general, your non-dairy subs should work really well, and for cooking as well, they can work really well. You can make all kinds of homemade ice creams, chowders, puddings, custards, smoothies, just about anything you can think of with non-dairy subs, and most of the time I don't really think that you can even tell. I just have served things to people and they have no idea that it's not made with real dairy. You'll know because you won't get sick, but people with IBS won't be able to tell. And let's see, okay, I've got someone on the tech side here asking, interested to know, can everyone post where they're at with IBS on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how hard this is on you right now? That's a good question. How are people doing? Are they mostly feeling stable? Scale to 1 to 10? How hard is it for you to be managing IBS right now? I would say right now for me personally, this is a pretty good time of year. I don't find holidays stressful. I don't have a lot of activities or travel in the holidays like a lot of people do. So my gut tends to stay pretty calm over the holidays, but a lot of other people find this a really hard time of year. So if you do take care of yourself, recognize that, and spend the time and effort that you need on yourself to keep your gut calm, because that's a priority. You're a priority. It's not just everybody else and everything else around you that's a priority. You can't manage any of that if you're not feeling happy and healthy. So you got to get there first before you can help others around you. And you're important. Take care of yourself. Another question coming in. What about wheat? I find it confusing. Yes, you and everybody else finds wheat. It is confusing. Wheat's a really confusing subject for IBS, and a lengthy subject. Oh my gosh. Where to start? So wheat in and of itself is not necessarily an IBS trigger, but whole wheat probably is. Whole wheat has the bran. Just like with rice, if you remove the bran from wheat, you're left with refined wheat, like white flour that you would use for baking to make white breads. It's still wheat, but it's not whole wheat, which has the bran, the little brown flakes that are the insoluble fiber. So wheat, if you've taken out the bran, it's just straight soluble fiber, and that can be a good safe staple. Something like French bread or sourdough breads, white breads. There's some wild cards with wheat. So if you still have trouble with it when it has had the bran removed and there's no insoluble fiber, you want to make sure that doctors have ruled out gluten intolerance. Celiac is an autoimmune disorder that causes gluten intolerance. They need to rule that out before they even diagnose you with IBS. So they'll start with a blood test. Make sure that you've had the blood test for celiac and that it was negative. And make sure that you were eating gluten for a good 6 weeks before that test so you don't get a false negative. Another wild card with wheat, there's fructans. That's a type of FODMAP. Probably hearing a lot about FODMAP diets for IBS. So fructans are a type of FODMAP. They're in other things besides wheat. But if you have trouble, that might be your issue as well, is fructans. So if you're having trouble running down your problems with wheat, you can take it out and see how you do. That's not really going to tell you if gluten is the issue because gluten is in some other grains as well. And if you're trying to run down the FODMAPs, that is really something you are only supposed to do with a registered dietitian who knows IBS and FODMAPs as well. Because what you really don't want to do is just exclude all FODMAPs from your diet forever and ever. Amen. You're going to strip out so many healthy foods and unnecessarily, because you may not have any FODMAP intolerances. It's not a universal issue. It's not a universal diet. About a third of the people with IBS have 0 FODMAP intolerances, so none of those restrictions are going to help them. And then for the people who do have intolerances, it's all over the map. You may have a sensitivity to fructans, but not polyols. You may have a sensitivity to polyols, but not, lactose. There's all kinds of monosaccharides and disaccharides, and it's a little bit complicated for people to get familiar with the FODMAP diet, so work with the registered dietitian on this so you don't end up with unnecessary restrictions. And we can get you information on that if you're trying to deal with that and need help. New question from John. And then I think after this we're going to start wrapping it up. We're coming up on the end of our hour here, so let us know any questions you still haven't had answered. John says he's at a 6 and his mornings are rough. Yeah, mornings are rough. Mornings tend to be hard on IBS across the board. And again, because when you wake up, so does your gut. And if you have IBS, you have a gut that's going to wake up and be hyperactive. So the best way to head this off is preventatively as much as you can. Mornings are horrible for me. I'm not a morning person. They really tend to set me off, and I have to make a lot of effort to keep my gut calm on an early morning routine. So start the night before. Make sure you're having a safe dinner. If you're using the tummy fiber, make your dinner dose the last one or even later at night before you go to bed. Have some of your helpful herbal teas before you go to bed. Have a really strong cup of peppermint before you go to bed. Take a peppermint oil capsule, a tummy tamer on an empty stomach before you go to bed. Whatever of those things works for you, find it. Make that a consistent effort so you're doing something before you even go to bed to head off problems the night before. And then assume mornings are going to be hectic and a rush and stressful and maybe cause problems. So brew another cup of tea the night before and have it ready for you in the morning. You can even put it right on your bedstand, so when you wake up, before you even get out of bed, you've got a mega strong cup of peppermint or fennel tea that's been brewing overnight. Can't be too strong. And start drinking that before you even get up. Just actively start calming your gut down before you get out of bed. If you use the tummy tamers, you can take one first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. That can help as well. I would do everything you can to make mornings less rushed and hectic. Lay out your clothes the night before. Have everything that you need to take care of your dog and cat for the morning the night before. Make sure everything you need to leave the house is right where you expect it to be, so you're not suddenly frantically looking for your wallet or your keys. If it helps you to get up a little earlier and have more time, that might be a way to keep things calm and stable in the mornings. If there's music that you like listening to, listen to that while you're getting ready. anything that you can do to sort of head that off, to know in advance mornings are going to be tough, that'll help you. And make your breakfast super duper safe. Okay, this is not a bacon and egg breakfast kind of disorder, unfortunately. You want something super plain, boring soluble fiber breakfast, cream of rice cereal, instant oatmeal, a banana. Do not add insoluble fiber to your breakfast or fat to your breakfast. If you know this is a bad time of day for you, go to extremes to make everything that you do in the morning safe and helpful. Anything that's going to force your gut to calm down and stay calm, make some efforts for that. And the good news here is that the more you can get into that routine and your gut gets to know that, okay, mornings aren't so bad, you know, it's staying calm day after day, you've got a procedure and a schedule here that works, your gut wants to stay in cycles. So if you can get it going in a good cycle, it wants to stay going in that cycle. So get your gut used to having good mornings. Get it used to knowing that, oh, you're going to get something really super calm and soothing into it the moment you wake up. Your gut will start to expect that and get used to that and behave according to that. So you can kind of force your gut into a new pattern of being calm and stable in situations where it normally doesn't want to be. You may never be a morning person. God knows I never will be. But at least you can get into a routine where you can keep your gut stable on mornings, day after day, and be in a routine where it's okay. This isn't something that's, causing problems for you day after day. You're not waking up sick and struggling morning after morning. You've found a schedule and a routine and ways to proactively manage this so that mornings aren't so bad. I got to get up early, but that's okay. I know how to head off problems, and I know how to get through this morning successfully and have a good day despite that fact. The more knowledge you have here and across the board with IBS, the more that you know, the better. Okay guys, we are getting ready to sign off here in a couple minutes. If there's any last quick questions, fire them off. Otherwise, we have another live event, our second one for this group of people coming through tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can join us again if you wish. Otherwise, I'm going to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for your questions and your participation. It was lovely to have you. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I can't wait to see you for our next event. Oh, one last. Oh, Dixie says thanks. Thanks, Dixie. Off.